Thanks, Cahirlach. To make 2 points. One is that the continued refusal of the EU to back the TRIPS waiver, the waiver of intellectual property on COVID vaccines, is an absolute scandal. It's a very clear example of profit before people. It's about protecting the intellectual property and the rights of the big pharmaceutical companies. It's about doing that now so that they can profit from the COVID vaccines in the future. But I also think more fundamentally, it's about protecting their intellectual property and their rights to intellectual property into the future, because they fear that if they were to concede at this point, well, yes, in terms of the morality of ensuring the world is vaccinated, but also the health of the entire world's population needs the rapid rollout of vaccines. That means generic production and distribution around the world. If they fear that if they were to accept that, well then rightly people will say at the next point, in terms of AIDS medicine or hepatitis medicine or whatever, the people will rightly say, why do the big pharmaceutical companies get to withhold and restrict the production of these, putting their own profits first? And I also have to say that the government and the EU and the US, they like to hide behind COVAX. COVAX is a completely inadequate response to the crisis, and it is about them being able to say, oh look, we're giving the vaccines to those who need them, while defending the essentials of the intellectual property. What they don't say are the non-transparent agreements between these countries and the pharmaceutical companies. What they also don't talk about is the fact that COVAX is only designed at its best to provide 1 in 5 of those who need it with vaccines in those countries which are selected, less than 100 countries. So it's completely inadequate, and then those poorest countries in the world have to go and buy the other vaccines on the international market. The other point I want to make is about the horrific homophobic actions of the far-right Hungarian government. We should remember that the leading party, Fidesz, led by Viktor Orban, was a sister party of Fine Gael until earlier this year, when it chose to leave the European People's Party. In government, it has attacked workers' rights, it has attacked the rights of the Roma people, engaging in quite disgusting racism against them, against migrants, and spreading anti-Semitism. And LGBTQ plus people have consistently been in the sights of this government to target for discrimination and oppression. The latest attack is a law which bans the portrayal of homosexuality amongst under 18s. That means no gay people in ads. It means no sex education relating to LGBTQ people. It means that sex education will be carried out only by agencies that are approved by this ultra-conservative government. We can obviously guess what kind of agencies those will be. One of the most disgusting parts of it is how it links, in this classic right-wing trope that we've seen in this country, it links the question of homosexuality with paedophilia in an attempt to disgustingly slur and slander LGBTQ plus people. Its aim very clearly is to push gay people out of public life and to make them feel ashamed and to legitimize kind of widespread homophobia in society. In the context of that law, in the context of the repression that exists, in the context of the violence against LGBTQ plus people, which is positively encouraged by the right-wing Hungarian government, I want to pay salute and tribute and express solidarity to LGBTQ plus activists within Hungary who have continued to fight for their rights, to stand out, to organise pride events in the course of this week, and saying that they're willing to do so even if it means civil disobedience. The question is, what is the EU going to do about it? We have heard now strong words of condemnation, but what is the EU going to do about it? It's well able to talk about democracy and human rights, but in terms of action, the only action the EU ever takes in terms of anything that happens within the borders of the EU is when governments or countries or states go against the EU neoliberal fiscal orthodoxy, or threaten to. So we had the example of Ireland being told, well, a bomb will go off and it won't be in Frankfurt, it'll be in Dublin if you attempt to burn the bondholders. Or we saw the power of the European Central Bank used to strangle the Greek banking system because they had the temerity to elect a government which had a mandate, at least, it didn't follow through on it, but on a mandate to reject austerity. But again and again and again, we see no action in terms of human rights, democratic rights, opposition to oppression within the EU.